I can almost
Side
see her
note to
hands. Maybe.
Anurag, will you move the secret notepad thing away from Emma's hand? We can't see her cards.
So let's start with Cyrus hand then. So Cyrus hand looks pretty good. Like it has mana, it has acceleration, but this is the kind of hand that scares me because it looks really good, right, against most decks of the format, but against Dredge, especially when Dredge is on the play and gets a good hand, it's gonna be really, really good. It's gonna be for Emma. I'm so getting confused because the notepad is not being removed. um, perfect. So
So it appears that Emma is going to be on a mull to 5, and it looks like this has the potential to be a somewhat fast hand here still with the breakthrough that's here.
yeah, like
The question becomes, what do you do with this Cabal therapy? Are you going to use it to try and disrupt Cyrus, or are you going to use it on yourself to put your Golgari Grave Troll into the graveyard and then try to go like turbo with the Grave Troll breakthrough?
yeah, I think it, that's probably the highest upside play, right? You therapy yourself, and then you could maybe even win the game with breakthrough in the second turn. The downside, of course, is if Cyrus has a Thought Season hand and he takes away your breakthrough, then your Dredge is going to be really, really slow. But I think
Yeah.
you probably, like, considering that you might be behind the matchup, you probably have to go for the highest upside play anyway, especially since you're mulliganing to 5, I think, as well. So Cyrus, I could see a preordain, could see a ponder. It's always like a science of its own whether you preordain or ponder in certain positions. It's never always clear. So here we see a preordain, finds another ponder, and maybe Cyrus is playing the long game at this point.
Cyrus's hand is set up to sculpt itself well over the next probably 2-ish turns in order to go off. We'll probably see another cantrip into a brainstorm, and that could itself lead to going off. But Cabal therapies from Emma's graveyard here are going to be extremely good. So I see
Yeah,
2 therapies. I see a bridge from below.
I see 4 therapies actually. Oh my god, this is gonna be devastation. This is gonna
Oh
be a
boy.
ton of tokens, and at least 2 ponders gone. The Dark Root is gonna be gone. So this is like, basically this is Cyrus's Twitter, right? So my opponent therapied me 4 times in the second turn and put 20 power into play.
And
How
then
do I
I
win?
flashed back past in flames, and I won somehow.
Past in Flames ex machina, kinda. So I wonder. She probably might have named. Did she flashback a therapy already? She probably might have named Infernal Tutor since she didn't really
No,
do
we
anything. I
saw
kind of.
Lion's Eye Diamond being the name off the first one.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think he might have played it, but yeah, it's definitely one of the highest upside cards because it's +3 mana, and
So now,
ever
now we
since
can
Magalhaes, we
see
know
the
that's good.
Cabal therapy sacking the Hogak, creating 3 more zombie
Oh
friends,
my
2 of which can go and recast the Hogak.
Yeah, who's the combo deck here, right? And Emma is really going off here. She's literally putting 20 points of power into play on the second turn here. This is crazy.
Yeah, and this shows like the versatility of Cabal therapy. Like we've seen it this game alone, sending a dredger to the graveyard and then being used as a surgical tool to remove key points of the opponent's deck.
So we got a couple more therapies coming up. Meanwhile, Hogak does its dance. Wow, I'm just so impressed with what the Dredge deck is doing here, and that's coming from somebody who really like has never really been a big fan of Dredge. But when you see these kinds of starts, and it wasn't even like the craziest start, like that there's these LED Faithless Looting double plays on the first turn. This was literally just Cable Therapy myself and Breakthrough on the second turn, and
Yeah,
just
we're going to
really.
see a turn 3 attack for lethal after shredding the opponent's hand.
So let's actually look at this from Cyrus' side. What is Cyrus looking to draw here? Oftentimes it's literally LED.
Brainstorm with
I think there might not even be any brainstorms left, but is there another therapy? But yeah, go ahead. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a brainstorm left. You're right. I guess you brainstorm just more LEDs.
an Infernal Tutor LED, 2 LEDs go for some sort of like ad nauseum baseline. Is there a way we can make that work? I don't
Yeah.
even know that we have enough cards at this point to make that work.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
think
that
you
like
literally
Hogak is coming back again.
you just go ahead and brainstorm next turn, and you literally want to find 2 more LEDs, but that doesn't do it. Then you flashback past some flames and have 1 mana floating. Then you go Dark Ritual, 3 mana. Huh, it's rough. Infernal.
Brainstorm, you're our only hope.
And that's it.
Rats.
That doesn't do it.
It's not gonna get there.
Oh, zombies are hungry.
All right.
Oh my god.
So
So
now
it's
we're
definitely
gonna
gonna show up in
see
some highlight video.
how much these players are willing to sideboard. So Emma, for example, has some cards that have an impact in the matchup, but aren't necessarily hard lockout cards. So, for example, would you be willing to sideboard in a Leyline of the Void as the Dredge deck? It's a very powerful card versus Ant, but are you really going to mulligan towards it? Do you want to be dredging that later on?
Yeah.
The ley lines and the deafening silence. No, that's not right. Deafening. Totally
Deafening,
blanking.
isn't it silence? I
No, it
thought
is
it was
deafening
definitely
silence.
Yeah, yeah,
And the
I'm pretty
deafening
sure.
silence will be very, very good, I think.
Yeah, this is the
From
kind of card you definitely want. The ley lines, I'm not so sure about. Like technically, it's a like decent way to fight against ANT, especially if you're playing a discard based deck. But Emma is not like this card is like her plan C in considering what the deck does. You're really just like going ahead and trying to raise your opponent while having some occasional cable therapy. So
I
you,
wasn't thinking about Leyline of Sanctity for discard reasons. I was thinking about it for like tendrils targeting reasons.
oh no, I was talking about Leyland of the Void.
Oh. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think the sanctity, like you mentioned, it's definitely gonna be there, so you can stop Cyrus from randomly killing you in the first or maybe second turn. And Cyrus knows about it and he has to respect it, so he brings in I think 3 bounce spells. And I also saw Veil of Summer, which is a card that generally just plays favorable against discard spells.
Yeah, you don't need to board that many cards when you're the Ant player most of the time, unless your opponent is like a hard hate deck, like something containing Chalice of the Voids or something like that. You can get a light touch and board in a couple of Echoing Truths and get pretty far. All right, looking at these hands, Emma's hand is pretty sweet here. We get a Deafening Silence to buy time in the early turn. We're going to get a Careful Study that'll junk 2 Grave Trolls, and then the Cephalid Coliseum activation will be absolutely disgusting.
I do like that she plays Deafening Silence first, because there's a world where Cyrus would find black potentially like you would have to think that maybe Cyrus has a discard spell. But wouldn't he be likely to side them out against Dredge? Especially on the play, I could maybe even see keeping them. But on the other hand, like you mentioned, he doesn't really have much to bring in. So if, you could make both plays, definitely. So getting that silence to play is gonna help you out quite a bit here.
So Cyrus is going to have all the mana in the world once he can answer this Deafening Silence. Like, he will probably be at the point where he can just have a kill off of like Cabal Rituals into Infernal Tutor for, say, like an LED or something like that, crack that, discard Past in Flames, and just go.
Yeah, the game is gonna turn really crazy as soon as Emma turns on that Cephalic Coliseum. So she already clicked it. She's probably gonna careful study here, probably put away 2 Grave Trolls. And then once she dredges in the following turn, she can hit that Coliseum, and boy, that's gonna be big. It's gonna be
Yeah.
another one of those super explosive things. It's also kind of nice that Coliseum doesn't use your spell slot for the Deafening Silence. It's a land that activates there.
Yeah, and that's something that's super important for this matchup, like the Deafening Silence. The Deafening Silence may prevent like Cabal therapies from being flashback on some turns if another spell is cast first.
Cyrus fetches here. He knows that he's gonna hit. He had like 2 cards he didn't want on top. He finds Tendrils. Tendrils is like a nice way to actually have a finish here as soon as he manages to get rid of the Deafening Silence. So he can literally just use the Infernal Tutor for extra mana. But he also doesn't really have the biggest of graveyards, and doesn't really look like he's gonna fill his graveyard anytime soon. So Cable Ritual not very good here until he finds more probably cantrips. But yeah, that's the beauty of Deafening Silence here, right? Basically, you want more cantrips to fill your yard, but you can't really do that. So it's not even about stopping. At this point, it's stopping the Storm engine, but it's really also stopping the Threshold engine. If you're
We
only putting
also
like
have some insider
one card,
information from the chat. Cyrus said, "Not gonna lie, I didn't see that card in your sideboard." So Cyrus perhaps would have boarded a little bit differently if he realized the Deafening Silence was coming.
ooh, oh, that's a bad beat, right? Huh. At least he still brought in. I think he brought in 2 Chain of Vapor and an Echoing Truth. That's from what I saw on the sideboarding.
Yeah, there are outs to it in the deck. This is by no means over or anything like that. What would you name with this therapy?
So since he hasn't done anything, what are you scared of? I would, yes. I mean, she does. I mean, I have inside information here, but I think I would also have named Keba Ritual.
Uh,
Actually, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't because of the issue of not having a full graveyard. I would have either named Dark Ritual or Infernal Tutor. I think.
I probably would have named Infernal Tutor.
Yeah. But yeah, Emma gets the Soul Read, takes away 2 of the Keba Rituals, and now it's going to be really rough, right? This preordained really must find a bounce spell.
The issue now becomes, even if he finds the bounce spell, is he going to be in a position to go off losing double ritual?
Yeah, he's definitely not in a position to go off like in the next 2 turns, I would think. And at that point, Emma would probably like already overwhelm him, considering that she gets to activate the Cephalic Coliseum next turn, which is going to be huge, right?
Yeah, so what do we have for dredgers in the yard, though? Not any?
Really?
No,
Is there
there's a
nothing?
thug.
Okay, it's all on that thug. Oh, and there's more Golgari Drifters. Okay, we
Oh,
just
never mind.
we
We
just
have
opened the
plenty of
graveyard.
friends.
Check this out. Okay, this is okay. If you maybe some people need to look away because that Cephalic Coliseum is gonna be ugly. It's gonna dredge for 18 or something. I mean, at some point, Emma must consider decking. Probably not yet,
I think
though.
Cyrus will be very dead before she decks.
True, true.
Call it a hunch. I'm no mathematician, but I have a gut feeling.
A really, really super cute play that Emma could eventually make is to just Cable Therapy Cyrus and name something like Chain of Vapor. Because if Cyrus actually plays the Chain of Vapor, if he had it in response on the Deafening Silence, then she can just replay that. I wonder if that's actually what she's doing here. Oh, okay, he goes for Brainstorm response. Oh, he's got the Flusterstorms.
So
But
maybe
does
it
he
was
can't
not
replay those?
Chain of Vapors that you saw being brought in. Maybe that was the Flusterstorms, actually.
Could have been it. Could have been it. I thought I had seen that, but yeah.
That's
Whoa.
that's it. We're done. Cyrus not taking that one down to losing the last life point.
Yeah,
Just
this is Legacy Premier League, right? That the person who was voted most likely to advance in first place drops down to a loser bracket and has to fight all the way from there. And maybe we're gonna see a return to that would be the story of the tournament, right? We've got the very first match, Cyrus against Andrea, and then the very last match they meet in finals again. That's almost similar, and I know most people wouldn't remember that about that the Euros 2004 where Greece and Portugal met in the first and the final match. But yeah, that's probably more for people who like football or soccer. So yeah, we have one more match coming up, and is that a rematch? Have we seen? No, we haven't seen Emma against Andrea yet. Yeah, they started off on 2 different sides.